Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
We went to our chiropractor last night and got all adjusted, which feels really good. But she took Mikey's blood pressure, and it was 120/80, which is really good for a man of his age.
What do you mean, a man of my age? You should be saying a man of my stature. You know, all this gray-headedness, honestly, isn't this a sign of wisdom?
A man of his age.
Yeah. You know, and I find it kind of ironic because with the amount of M&Ms that I've been eating, you would think my blood pressure would be going through the roof, but it's not.
But that was all ruined this morning in going through some of this information. It's like, oy vey.
Yes. You know, when it comes to dealing with Watchtower, you have to remember that the governing body boys of the Jehovah's Witnesses suffer from rectal cranial insertion disorder. Now, for you Jehovah's Witnesses that are a little slow, let me translate that. That means your governing body members still have their heads up their asses.
Wow.
Those are words of wisdom from a man of my age.
Well, that's what's nice about being our age is once you reach the 50s, it's like you don't give a crap.
You get away with anything anymore, can't you?
Yeah, some say, oh, they're just senile, they're just crazy old farts. Heard that before, haven't we?
Maybe one of these days we'll get real lucid again, huh?
What's the fun in that?
I know.
So we have an elder's letter, and I'm going to read this. This is to all bodies of elders in the United Kingdom and the Republic of Ireland. Handling matters relating to alleged child abuse. Yeah. We're going to go there. Dear brothers, this letter replaces the letter dated February 1st, 2011 to all bodies of elders regarding handling matters relating to alleged child abuse and has been added to the list of policy letters cited in Index to Letters for Bodies of Elders, the S22 forms. From time to time, organization and others ask to see our policy for handling matters relating to child abuse, like the Australian Royal Commission.
Yeah, organizations and others. You mean legal entities of the world, Watchtower? Yeah, we know what that means.
Back to the letter. Of course, our comprehensive and long-standing policy has been set out in various publications over the years. However, to help answer such inquiries, we have a child safeguarding policy. The policy has been recently revised.
Yeah.
The child safeguarding policy summarizes key scriptural and theocratic principles for the protection of children. What about the legal ones?
Yeah.
The policy includes the articles listed on page 6. Once you have entered the telephone numbers on page 6 of the Child Safeguarding Policy document, it should be printed. The articles listed in the notes section are part of this document and should also be printed. Place the policy and the articles in a folder of its own and then keep it in the congregation file. As stated on page 5, this policy will be made available upon request to members of the congregation. And I just want to add a note here that in their child safeguarding policy, we have read it, but at the end they have links to videos that Aunt Mo did and the Sophia and Caleb cartoon about this.
Yeah.
Those links in the booklet do not work. When you open it in a PDF, those links do not work. And it's very difficult to find them on JW Broadcast. You can ask Mike.
Yeah,
it took me like half an hour to find those on JW Broadcast, and I had to do a major search. So I just want to note that.
Yeah.
It's not easily readily available.
Yeah, you go.
Okay, so back to the letter. The protection of children is of the utmost importance to us. Jehovah's Witnesses abhor child abuse, and we do not shield those committing offenses of this nature. Child abuse may include physical, sexual, and emotional abuse or neglect. This policy serves as a guide and, as set out in point 10 of the policy, includes the direction to contact the branch office as soon as possible when elders learn of alleged child abuse. In such a case, 2 elders should contact the legal department at the branch, and that's in bold print. This should be done even if the report is unsupported and regardless of the age of the alleged victim or perpetrator now or at the time of the alleged abuse. Spiritual and legal advice given by the branch office is situation specific. Therefore, in every case, it is important that you contact the branch office immediately. Do not rely on past advice that may have been given regarding some other situation. Review carefully the revised child safeguarding policy. Parents are responsible for the welfare and safety of their children, but elders do all that they reasonably can as spiritual and confidential counselors to safeguard the cleanness of the congregation and to protect children and other vulnerable ones. We trust that the information in this letter and the child safeguarding policy will help you carry this load. The branch office is here to assist. Remember to contact the branch office promptly when faced with issues such as those outlined above. Now, I want to mention that Barbara Anderson has done an article, and she talks about the history of where this child safeguarding policy came from, and a little bit of history and all of that. And I'm going to put the link down to her article on her website, watchtowerdocuments.org, so that you can go and read this. And so, on to the child safeguarding policy.
Can I interject something here real quick before we get into that?
What?
Well, I just want to point out a couple of things that jumped out at me while Kim was reading this letter. Things that I hadn't thought of until just right now, because these are not scripted. These are just absolute observations of having been a Jehovah's Witness for 42 years of my life. Second paragraph. From time to time, organizations and others ask to see our policy for handling matters relating to child abuse. This is what I take exception to. Of course, our comprehensive and long-standing policy has been set out in various publications over the years. Having been one of Jehovah's Witnesses for 42 years, our comprehensive and long-standing policy on Thursday nights for 42 years, once a month, the Watchtower Bible Tract Society has allowed time for local needs of the congregations. I challenge every single solitary Jehovah's Witness out there. Have you ever heard of local needs dealing with their comprehensive and long-standing policy regarding child abuse? Never. In 42 years of being a JW have I ever heard that ever discussed in a local needs part on a Thursday night. You fail. Watch. I see here again. This is an absolute signal that your heads are still up your asses because you are not informing the congregations about what your problem is, your policies, because it's never been discussed.
How many
in front
times?
Of the congregation.
How many times have they announced to the congregation that they even have a child safeguarding policy and that it's available for anybody who wants it?
Never, ever, ever have I ever heard Watchtower or local elders even discuss such a thing. Now, there's another thing that I take exception to. You say down here, parents are responsible for the welfare and safety of their children, but elders do all they can elders do all that they reasonably can as spiritual and confidential counselors. How do you spiritually direct somebody in allegations of child abuse? How do you spiritually handle that issue? Honestly, I mean, now let's think about how Watchtower views apostates. It was a Watchtower article many years ago that said, if it wasn't for the laws of the land, we would stone to death apostates. Now that is a spiritual loaded piece of language. So I'm going to reverse that. See, spiritually, Jehovah's Witnesses, if it wasn't for the laws of the land, we would stone to death those who make their children pass through the fires
or child abuse
of Molech. And if you did any real research about what that passing through the fires of Molech was all about, it had a lot to also do with child molestation and a rite of passage. Do your research.
And I forgot to mention in Barbara Anderson's article that she did that she also has a link to Black Jack's video that he did when he was talking to elders in his house.
Yeah.
And it's linked to YouTube video, Black Jack Won't Be Trumped. And that's a really good video to watch, you know, how these elders, you know, hee-haw and, you know, suffer from that disorder Mike mentioned before.
Yeah.
With the child abuse, you know, issue that was right in their congregation.
Yeah. And one of the most outstanding points regarding that video is you're going to hear one of the elders admit that as a child, he was sexually abused and molested, and now he's put himself in a position to offer spiritual counsel to others when he himself has never been dealt with, never learned how to deal with his being sexually abused as a child. It's really disturbing. It truly is.
Yeah, and I also forgot to mention that on a couple of the forums, I know it's on the Spanish forum for ex-members, and I believe the Jehovah's Witnesses.net, and an elder has informed us that they went to their elder school, and they were instructed that now they are going to have to tell the family and the victim that they have the right to contact authorities. So you have the right to contact authorities. Okay, well, why don't they make this mandatory? Maybe you should contact the authorities, or you need to contact the authorities. Don't do well, you have the right to contact the authorities. No,
right.
Maybe you should contact the authorities. So we're ready to get into this wonderful booklet, Child Safeguarding Policy. And like I said, Barbara Anderson has done an analysis of this, and we just wanted to mention just a few things.
Yeah, because there's a lot hidden in the verbiage that they're using here, which still shows that these guys still have their heads up their asses.
Yeah. Now I'm going to put the link down below in the description to this child safeguarding policy also. And we find it hilarious. It's 73 pages long.
Yeah.
And only the first 6 pages deal with their policy. It looked like all the rest of the booklet was just reprints of their articles.
Watchtower articles.
Watchtower articles.
Articles that they've never ever discussed in a local needs. Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah. Okay, so here on page 3, number 9. For the safeguarding of children, and because child abuse is a serious sin, any congregation member who in any way learns of child abuse involving someone who associates with Jehovah's Witnesses is encouraged to advise any one of the congregation's elders as soon as possible. Congregation elders will comply with any relevant laws. In addition, a congregation member who learns of child abuse may choose to report the matter to the secular authorities.
Okay, now here's the issue. They're still viewing, now keep in mind, this is the latest edition, 2017. They're still viewing child sexual abuse as a sin and not a crime. In addition, a congregation member who learns of child abuse may choose.
No,
See,
they need to.
that's the point. They're still leaving it up. They're still leaving that little cushion in there where Jehovah's Witness elders can say, well, you know, if you do choose to do this, we're going to have to disfellowship you because you are now attacking Jehovah's organization. You are now bringing one of your brothers to court. And this is where these guys have still got their heads up their asses because they're not writing it out specifically. They should say, in addition, a congregation member who learns of child abuse should immediately report it to the secular authorities. But no.
Go to the elders.
Go to the elders.
See,
It's disgusting.
And they don't even immediately report it to the authorities. They call the Watchtower legal department.
Still.
Okay, number 10. In the event a matter involving the abuse of a child is brought to the attention of congregation elders, 2 elders will contact the legal department at the branch office as soon as possible for legal advice to ensure that they comply with any relevant laws. This will be done even if the allegation is unsupported. Thereafter, a qualified elder in the service department at the branch office will provide spiritual guidance and direction to congregation elders. In all cases, the victim and her parents have the absolute right to report an allegation to the authorities. So that tells me that you Jehovah's Witnesses, if any elder or anyone threatens you with disfellowshipping or any kind of removing your privileges or anything like that for reporting it to the secular authorities, this booklet tells you that it is your right to report it, and they cannot do anything to you.
Well, there again, it's still a paragraph with loaded language.
So you're going to love number 11 then. After receiving assistance from the branch office, congregation elders will conduct a scriptural investigation.
How do you scripturally investigate child abuse? No, honestly, this is bullshit loaded language, Watchtower. I ain't so stupid that I can't see what you guys are doing here, because there is no definition of spiritual investigation. You've never defined what spiritual investigation
Scriptural.
is. Oh, yeah, scriptural.
Same difference.
Well, yeah, because these guys are idiots. They're just absolute
Blood pressure, dear.
idiots.
Blood pressure. Scriptural investigation of every allegation of child sexual abuse. Scriptural. Where in the Bible is that even mentioned?
No, it's only mentioned in the Old Testament, and when a child abuser is found out, they're stoned to death. Where's the stoning to death of your elders and all of these child molesters? No, you guys don't practice that because you view it as a rite of passage, because you're actually bowing down to Moloch.
It's a sin. It's not a crime.
They don't view it as a crime.
Congregation elders will treat victims of child abuse with compassion, understanding, and kindness.
That'll never happen. That'll never happen.
As patient, spiritual, and confidential counselors, they will carefully listen with empathy and respect whenever a victim desires to express herself to them. That'll be a nice change, won't it?
Yeah.
As soon as, let's see. Okay, I just lost my place. Okay.
You're going to skip over 12.
Yeah, because that's, you can go tell, they're supposed to go tell the victim's parent, unless one of the parent is one of the abusers, and then they go to the other parent.
Right.
Okay, number 13 was interesting. If any congregation elder learns of a case of child abuse in which a child may still be at risk of significant harm, that being the key word, significant harm, so it's up to them to decide
what significant harm is. See, it's still, again, they've got their heads up their asses because they're still leaving all of this in the laps of the elders. It's up to your discretion to determine what significant harm is. Now, wait a minute. How could there ever be significant harm when you're only viewing it as a sin and not a crime?
Yeah. Okay, 2 elders must contact the legal department at the branch office for legal advice on compliance. So they don't call Child Protective Services or the cops or anything.
Any social
legal
workers.
Department.
Yeah.
A report to the police or other appropriate authorities will be made immediately by the congregation elders if it is determined that a child is still at risk.
Again, it's up to their discretion if the child is at risk.
Well,
You see, this is nothing but a facade. That's all this is.
well, look at Derek O'Hare's congregation. The case was that the pedophile was a relative of the Kobe. And so
Yeah.
that's why they, hammered on Derek and didn't do anything, because it was a relative of the elder, that was in charge.
Yeah. These guys are absolute. Your lawyers, Watchtower, are absolute idiots. They truly are. I don't know whose head is up whose ass. If the governing body members' heads are up the asses of the lawyer or vice versa. I don't know. Because this is so convoluted in the way you've got this worded. Well, hell, only an idiot lawyer could understand what's going on here.
Yeah. Now, this next paragraph, number 14, we find interesting because we're wondering if the Australian Royal Commission had any influence on this one. In the case of any discussion with a child abuse victim, an elder will not be alone with the child, but will involve another elder and the child's parent/parents, not including a parent who's the alleged abuser. If the child expresses to the elders discomfort in discussing the matter in the presence of a parent, and the parent agrees, then the child may be gently told that he or she may choose an adult companion other than a parent, with whom he or she feels comfortable speaking about the matter, to be present during this discussion. So does that mean like a grandma or a sister?
I can tell you what that doesn't mean. That does not mean that this child, if they choose an adult companion other than a parent, why don't you choose a police officer?
Yep.
Why don't you choose to have a social worker sitting in that back room with an elder?
A child advocate.
I can guarantee you that this is not what Watchtower had in mind when they wrote this paragraph right here. But yet, what Jehovah's Witness minor or any victim is going to ask to have legal representation? Not a one. I guarantee you, because if it happens, these elders will not sit in a room with legal representation of the victim. They won't do it. I guarantee you. That's why this is, as important as this may seem, friends, this is nothing but another Watchtower facade, because it's all in the trickery of the wording. Just like all the trickery in the wording that they've written back here all these decades. You've got to be fully awake to see that this is still bullshit.
Okay, back to the booklet.
Can you feel my blood pressure going up?
Oh yeah, I feel the heat off of you sitting here. During the investigation process and any subsequent congregation judicial committee hearing, a victim of child sexual abuse is not required to make her allegation in the presence of the alleged abuser. And
No.
that sentence right there, I think, is was the one that was because of the Australian Royal Commission.
And that is the only absolute, and I mean absolute, change in their child abuse policy here.
Okay, then we're going to
Point number 17, right?
point number 17. But 15 is kind of interesting because it says one of Jehovah's Witnesses who is an unrepentant child abuser is expelled from the local congregation as well as from the organization of Jehovah's Witnesses. The operative word being unrepentant child abuser. If they are repentant, then they're allowed back in.
Yeah.
So we want to go down to 17. A person who has been found, either by a congregation judicial committee or the secular authorities, to have engaged in child sexual abuse might be a member of the congregation. In all such cases, restrictions will be imposed on the individual's activities within the congregation. His participation in the public ministry and his interaction with children for the protection of children. In particular, the individual will be specifically prohibited and admonished from being alone in the company of children, cultivating friendships with children, or displaying any affection for children, other than his own when he is legally entitled to do so. In some cases, the service department may specifically direct elders to inform parents of minors within the congregation of the need to monitor their children's interaction with an individual who is engaged in child sexual abuse. Now, I'm sure Jehovah's Witnesses are just going to hear, oh, see, they're to inform the congregation. No. It says, may specifically direct elders to inform the parents.
Now here again, in some cases, why doesn't that say in all cases?
Yeah.
You know why? Because the alleged perpetrator could very well be a relative of someone who's serving on the service committee. And, you know, heaven forbid that someone in the service committee has to admit that they have a child predator in their own family that they got to warn the congregation about. No, again, this is just smoke and mirrors. This is just Watchtower's bullshit because their head is still up their asses.
Yeah. Now, we know Mark Latham on their YouTube channel did a video about the audit to where their personal
Destroying
notes were to be destroyed. So that reminded me when I read this one, number 18. Information concerning individuals associated with the congregation who are accused of child sexual abuse, whether established or not, will be kept indefinitely in the congregation's confidential file with a view to safeguarding children.
So, they can't destroy those notes anymore.
Number 9.
Well, at least you would hope they wouldn't. I think they're going to still secretly do it.
Yeah. Number 19. This policy applies to all congregations of Jehovah's Witnesses in Britain and Ireland.
What?
Why not all?
Why not the entire organization worldwide, Watchtower?
I thought your organization was united. Don't they brag about their unity? All one under God's organization?
But we read earlier how comprehensive and how much they care about their child safety. No, you don't, because this is only going to apply to Britain and Ireland. Again, smoke and mirrors.
Okay, and then on page 6 is the notes with like references and stuff. And then that's the end of their important information. The rest goes into all their articles about, child abuse. And like I said, there are links here in the booklet. When you open this PDF, the links aren't even working. At least on my computer, they're not. But one of the last things I have is helpful local telephone numbers include police, and they have a line so you can write in the police number or the local authority children's services.
Yeah, and it's funny. They're beginning to quote an article from the Watchtower, January 1st, 1997, entitled, "Let us abhor what is wicked." When you heard the verbiage of some of these points that we just read out, do you really get the impression that they abhor what is wicked? Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yep.
In some cases, if that's not, it only seems like they're being compliant, and they're really not. Not until they get caught again. When this organization starts getting fined to the tunes of billions of dollars, will this organization ever be compliant? Because the God they worship enjoys molesting children.
Yeah. Now, I just want to note here that one of their references, footnotes, it says, prior to offering counseling assistance, it is recommended that elders review information such as that found in the Awake, October 8th, 1993, counseling adult survivors of childhood trauma. What is wrong with advising them to contact a professional counselor who has actually gone to school for this and has master's degrees?
Well, that's the thing. They don't want you going outside the organization because they think they have the best solution in counseling these people.
What if an elder that is supposed to do this and be counseling child, what if he was a pedophile now or in the past too?
Or even a victim. There again, you Jehovah's Witnesses have got to learn to recognize the English language and how it is an absolute loaded language when you think about how we communicate today.
Well, especially when you've got lawyers doing stuff like this. Wow.
This stuff is not of God. It's of Satan. It's, counseling adult survivors of childhood go to a professional. Don't go to Watchtower because they're not professional. The only thing they're professional of is having the right crap and then 5 years later change it because it no longer applies. That's what they're professionals of.
Yeah, good one. Well, thank you for listening. And
I gotta go get my blood pressure checked again.
Thank you so much for joining us. Here in our
listening
home,
to this rant,
listening to us, and welcome to all our new subscribers. And thank you, everybody. I've still been getting Christmas cards, so thank you so much, everybody, for the Christmas cards, and thank you for the donations, so much. It helps.
For your love and support. And
thank you for your love and
your
support.
Comments.
And I just finished October's emails, so
hooray.
happy dance. So, we hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and we all love you.
Bye.
Bye.
The governing body has also asked me to address another topic that I must say hits close to my heart, being a father who raised two boys. The subject is the abuse of children and the damaging effects this can have on such innocent victims. As an organization, we view all such abuse of children, whether physical, sexual, or emotional, as deplorable. As you likely know, Jehovah's Witnesses take a stronger position than most on the scriptural inappropriateness of any form of immorality. However, to take advantage of innocent young ones is absolutely despicable. As a religious organization, we have taken a decisive stand against such behavior. It is our fervent desire to protect children from any kind of abuse. Our policy as an organization is that one professing to be a victim or his parents should never be discouraged from reporting the incident to the appropriate authorities. While child abuse has been perpetrated earthwide in many cultures for thousands of years, it is only in the past 40 years or so that the magnitude and the extent of the problem has become better known. This is because governmental agencies are now determined to take a more active interest in this problem. Laws were enacted requiring medical and other professionals to report cases to the authorities when they became aware of them. Prior to that time, many governmental, educational, and religious organizations were somewhat naive about the magnitude and the complexity of the situation. Others knew of the problem and covered it up. What has our position been as an organization? When what was termed as the new morality became popular over 50 years ago, which included sexual relations among young ones, we condemned such behavior based on the Bible's unerring and timeless principles. As the awareness of child abuse became more and more known, we published a landmark Awake magazine over 30 years ago. It was the issue of June 22nd, 1982. There are 5 article titles that nailed the subject in a very straightforward manner. The first article was entitled, "The New Morality." And then, "Chickens and Hawks" was the second article. It warned about homosexual men who prey on and advocate the right to use boys for sex. Shame on them. The next article, "Baby Pros and Kiddie Porn," condemned prostitute rings that employed small girls in an array of abuse. Then rape at home, no further explanation needed on that. And finally, the article, "To End Child Abuse." I remember this magazine well, since I had 2 boys who were in elementary school at the time. And again, remember that the world in general was still somewhat naive about the magnitude of this issue and the gravity of the problem. I read the 5 articles. Then I looked at my 2 boys and I said a prayer to Jehovah, thanking him for moving the organization to be so proactive in trying to help parents to protect their young ones from the plague of the new morality and the abuse of children. This issue has been straightforwardly addressed in print many times since then. I'd now like you to view a PSA. What is a PSA? It stands for Public Service Announcement. It is a message of public interest which is aired by the media without charge. The objective is to raise awareness about changing public attitudes and behavior towards a social issue. Television stations are not obligated to play all such 30 to 60-second messages provided. However, if the topic and production value captures their attention, they can choose to air a PSA for the benefit of the viewing audience. In the late 1990s, the governing body approved 4 PSAs on the subject of family life. I'd like to show you one of these that was produced back in 2002. It was picked up and aired by some of the largest TV networks in the United States. Why? Because they realized this type of warning was important for their viewing audience to see. It is true, the type of computer equipment shown in the video dates it. However, the message is just as pertinent now as then, and maybe even more so. Please watch.
He understands you and makes you feel special. He knows everything you're interested in. He's your best friend and always there when you need him. He seems too good to be true. He is. Parents, protect your children. And most of all, give your children knowledge, wisdom, and thinking ability. Love builds happy families.
While we cannot control everything that an individual might say, it is clear that over the decades, protecting children from abuse is a top priority for this organization. We are proud of our reputation in this regard, and we look forward to the time in God's new world when no one, young or old, will ever again be a victim of abuse. Since the latter part of our discussion has addressed what Jehovah's organization has done to protect children from predators, it gives me great pleasure to release at this time another animated video in the series, Become Jehovah's Friend. It is entitled, Protect Your Children.
Children, Jehovah wants you to be happy and keep you safe. But some people want to do bad things to you. So Jehovah gave you a conscience. It's like an alarm system that helps you to know right from wrong. It will protect you from danger. So, Mom and I will help you test your alarm system. Ready? What if someone tells you something that makes you feel uncomfortable or scares you? What do you do?
I'm not sure, but that's weird. Stop!
Very good. Tell them to stop it. And you tell Mom and Daddy. No matter what someone tells you, never keep a secret from us.
What if they ask you to do something that makes you feel uncomfortable?
I would say no.
You're right. You should say no and walk away.
What if they try to touch you where they shouldn't?
I wouldn't let them. I'd get out of there.
Good, Caleb. Even if it's an adult you know and trust, you should say no and run away. And you should yell, "Stop doing that! I'm going to tell on you!"
Stop doing that! I'm going to tell on you!
The world can be a scary place, but you are never alone. Remember, you have your conscience, your mom and dad who love you, and you have Jehovah.
We're happy to see how Jehovah's organization continues to teach our young ones how to make wise choices when the figurative monsters of this world try to lure them into their traps. And you parents should be commended for your tireless efforts to protect your children.